है, एक दूसरे को देखना है, देख सकते हो, but during the periods nothing doing. At the board, only stare at the board.
अरे आगे देखना, कुछ भी बोल रहे हैं, देखो क्लास के बाद लिखो।
Where were you? कितना लंबा किसका एग्जाम आधा तो चैप्टर था एग्जाम का. Yes, now settle down. We were talking about which topic? Control coordination. I think the last part of the chapter. What was it? Tell me. Hormones have we done? Hormones have we? क्या था last topic? Complete नहीं हुआ.
Coordination in plants.
I don't think so. क्या था last topic? Hormones in plants बाकी है. Hormones in plants बाकी है and tropic movements बाकी है. So these are the concepts left. हाँ, अब तुम्हारा कौन सा explanation चल रहा है वहाँ पे? एक घंटे का तुम 2 मिनट में बता दोगे? Now, when we are talking about tropic movements, we are going to learn, and a basic concept of hormones we are going to study. A basic concept of hormones we are going to study there. Now, all of you, take out, yes, take out your notebook. We continue with the hormones of the plants. Now, what are some of the hormones? Only 5 hormones we are studying. What are the hormones of the plants known as? The hormones of the plants are known as phytohormones. The hormones of the plants are known as phytohormones. So now, when we are talking about phytohormones, what are some of the features? Some differences, some similarities we have to just remember. When we are talking about phytohormones, the first point always remember, these are chemical substances released by certain tissues of the plant. But these chemical substances, unlike the plant, unlike the animal, already we had studied animal hormones. Hormones in the animal released from one tissue, and they can travel to various different parts of the body by the way of, how do the hormones in the animal body travel? By blood. In case of the plant, the difference is the specific plant parts would produce the hormone, and the action is happening near the region itself, meaning the action is happening locally. Because in case of a plant, the hormone cannot travel long distances. The plant does not have any proper fluid. They don't have a body fluid as such. Since the plants do not have a body fluid, the tissue that produces the hormone and the site where the action is happening of that hormone always are nearby. Unlike a animal that we had studied, unlike in human body that we had studied, if it is secreted near the brain, talk about the pituitary, secreted near the brain, but it can have its function in so many regions of the body. So ये concept plant में नहीं है. Number 1. Number 2, when we talk about the hormones, in case of animal body, human body, we had come across deficiency of hormones give rise to variety of disorder. Is it there in case of plants also, deficiency of hormone and few disorders? Yes, in case of plants also few disorder, but the disorders are not as serious and dreadful as we have come across in animals, of course. Number 3, when we are talking about the hormones, in case of the plants, which type of tissue majorly remain affected by the hormones? Hormones of plants are directly associated with the meristematic tissues. So now, as I start with the phytohormones, the word hormones, hormones of the plants are directly associated with which tissue? The meristematic tissues. What type of functions does this hormone bring about? If I have to talk about the plant, the hormones in a plant majorly bring about growth in different forms. Unlike the animal body, unlike the human that we had studied, hormone can bring about growth, hormone can bring about maturation, hormone can control all set of metabolism we had understood. But if I have to talk about the plants, in case of plants, the functions of the hormones are limited. The functions of the hormones are limited, where we understand the functions of the hormones would be majorly restricted to growth. Now, what are the different types and what type of growth they bring about? Let us try understanding. The first hormone that we understand is auxin. The first hormone is auxin. Where is this hormone? Now, you have to learn only one as per the syllabus, only where it is produced and what function it performs. Only that much to study. So, I talk about the first hormone of the plants, that is the auxin. Where is this auxin generally released? It is secreted at the root and the shoot tip. Secreted at the root and shoot tip. That is the site where the hormone is produced. What is the function? The function of the hormone is very important for you, that you'll have to remember. 1 mark to write or differences to write. What is the function of the hormone? It helps in the primary growth of the plant. Helps in the primary growth of the plant by cell elongation. Generally, whenever we talk about the concept of growth, we always understand growth means cell division. But here, in case of auxin, the growth is not by cell division, but it is always by elongation. The shoot and the root tip. The root tip and the shoot tip. So, what is the location? Where is the hormone produced? And what is the function? The second hormone that we talk about is the cytokinin. This is the second hormone. Where is this hormone produced? This hormone will generally bring about, again, secondary growth. What is the meaning of secondary growth and primary growth that I talk about? I may talk about a shoot, a very young shoot, and this shoot is now in the process of growth. So I talk about a young shoot which is in the process of growth, and where is the auxin secreted? The auxin is secreted here. What is this known as? This is known as the shoot tip. This is known as the shoot tip. Whenever we talk about the growing plants, at the tip of the shoot, wherever the process of growth is constantly happening, the shoot tip. If I talk about the root regions, where is auxin secreted? Here. These are the regions where the auxin is secreted, the root tips. Next is I talk about cytokinin. Where is cytokinin now released? Cytokinin also brings about growth, but I would say where is cytokinin released? The cytokinin is secreted and released at the nodes of the stem. Cytokinin basically released at the growing ends, but at the nodes of the stem, at the nodes of the branches. So at the nodes of the stem, at the nodes of the branches, these are the site. What would be the function of this particular hormone? Cytokinin now, the second. Function of this hormone would be helps in the growth of the branches, helps in the growth of the branches, the twigs, the stalk of the flower, by cell division. Now I am not talking about cell elongation. Cytokinin brings about cell division. Cytokinin के और भी बहुत सारे functions हैं, but you are learning only one function. So we are talking about cytokinin also helps in closure of the stomata, chloroplast formation, many more, but only one comparative function you are learning here. So oxygen, see here, I wrote here cell elongation. It is only making the cells longer, no division at all, but still growth. Cytokinin helps in cell elongation, cell division and then growth. Meaning, if it is a plant here, and if I have to understand cytokinin's function, then I should know that these are the regions where this is the node of a plant. This is the node of a stem. This is the node of a stem. What is the meaning of node of a stem? When you look into the stem part of any plant, you also must have noticed that there are some ring-like structures which appear a bit more darker than the rest of the regions. And it is at this particular region where the branches are formed. And then there is a flower or a leaf. So now this is the node of the plant. These are the nodes. The region between the two nodes, the internode. And in the internode, these hormones are not produced. And that's the reason in the internode we don't see any growth. So where is cytokinin? Here cytokinin, which will help in making the branches, the leaf, the flower, the fruit. That is what is known as secondary growth of the plant. Then what was primary growth? Only making the plant tall. That is primary growth. The third hormone, cytokinin and oxygen, note what is the difference. The third hormone that we talk about is gibberellins or gibberellic acid. Gibberellins or gibberellic acid. What does it do? Gibberellins. जिब्रेलिक एसिड भी बोला जाता है या तो
स्कूल में पढ़ा तो मैंने जिब्रेलिक बोला
जिब्रेलिक तो है ही नहीं जिब्रेलिन्स जिब्रेलिन है गिब्रेलिन नहीं है the pronunciation is gibberellins. So when we are talking about gibberellins, the pronunciation is gibberellins, you can check later. So when we are talking about this particular hormone, what does it do? Where does it act on? Now, this particular hormone is majorly responsible for making the stem wider and broader. For example, I have planted one small sapling, a chota sa plantlet. We have planted, and the stem is very weak, feeble, greenish, young. After 6 months, what is the change we get to see? After 6 months, we could get to see that yes, the stem has become broader. And maybe now, after a year, what are we going to observe is, yes, the stem is becoming broad and it is constantly flourishing, giving rise to the branches and all. So what would be the change? What is the job of this hormone, that is gibberellins? Here, this would generally make the entire stem much broader. With the time, the hormone secretes and cell division happens. Lines and lines of meristematic cells are formed and the stem progressively much more broader, the root progressively much more broader, the branches and the twigs much more broader, and that is how the plant would flourish and keep on growing. So how did the stem become broad? The branches become broad. If I talk about the roots, yes, the roots also they have become broad. How did the roots become broad? Because of this particular hormone. Where is it secreted? It is secreted, released at the stem, branches, roots. What is its function? The function of this hormone is it increases the girth of the stem and the root. Girth of the stem, root, branches. What is the meaning of girth? Girth here means diameter. Girth, simple, if I have to mention, girth also means diameter. So use the words. What is the meaning of the word girth? Improves the girth, increases the girth progressively, the diameter progressively. Now, these are all, what is common in all these hormones? Twigs and stalk of the flower. Stalk of the flower. Now, what is common in all these hormones? Can you understand? These type of hormones, they all promote growth. No, they all are promoting growth in some way or the other. Elongation hai, cell division hai. They are helping in the growth of the branches. So, common kya hai? If you are asked a question, write one similarity between these hormones. So what is the similarity? They all help in the process of growth. So that's the reason they are all known as growth promoters. They are all known as growth promoters. Name two hormones which are growth promoters. What is the meaning of promoter? They help in the process of growth some way or the other. They help in the process of growth some way or the other. Give two examples of growth promoter. Any two you write. Gibberellic acid or cytokinin and oxygen, any two you write. What is the other type? The other type of hormone now we talk about would be the growth inhibitor. Now we are talking about only one growth inhibitor. So the first growth inhibitor that I talk about would be the abscisic acid. Let us talk about this. Growth inhibitor. The fourth hormone that I talk about is abscisic acid. Now, where is abscisic acid released? Again, abscisic acid is also released in the meristematic tissues, the growing regions. But when? When the growth of the plant is obtained. A particular plant, I talk about the jasmine. The flower will have to obtain a specific size. The leaf has to obtain a specific size and then the release of abscisic acid. So if I have to write that where is this hormone released, it is secreted and released. It is secreted and released at the growing regions of the plant. At the growing regions of the plant. Growing regions also to talk about the meristematic tissues also. At the growing regions of the plant where growth can continue. Here we can also write meristematic again as I mentioned. Now next is abscisic acid. What does it do? What is its function? It will inhibit the process of growth. It will inhibit the growth of leaves, fruits, and flowers. And it will promote senescence. It will promote senescence, meaning aging of the plant parts. Green leaf, it has grown optimum size. And now that it has grown optimum size, all these hormones have helped in the growth.
Abscisic acid growth inhibitor.
It is only one growth inhibitor that we are talking about. Baki jo teen the, they were all promoters. They were all growth promoters. Senescence, SENESCENCE, हाँ?
ये growth को promote नहीं करता.
ये inhibit करता है growth, just the opposite function. I talk about when we are talking about the role of abscisic acid. Try to understand the release of abscisic acid in different plants will be at different times. I talk about two flowering plants growing parallelly. One jasmine, the other hibiscus. For the jasmine, the flowers are small. The leaves are small. So the release of abscisic acid is much faster in that plant. Comparatively, I talk about the hibiscus. The leaves are broader. The flower is big. The plant is taller. So the release of abscisic acid will be much later for that plant. So every particular species, every particular type of a plant will have abscisic acid released in the plant parts, but only when the parts of the plants are fully grown. only when the leaf is fully grown, only when the fruit is fully grown, only when the flowers are fully grown. That's the reason when I talk about the mango and the watermelon, they are variable sizes. The size of the mango and the orange and the guava and the grape, why are they different? Because they are of different species. And the release of abscisic acid at different times. So this is what. Now, senescence is the point that you should write. What is the meaning of this? Every leaf has a span. You are also aware that every leaf, after a period of 4 or 5 days, it starts getting yellow and falls off from the plant. Every flower, after a couple of days, 2 to 3 days maximum for all the average size flowers. For big flowers, at the most 4 to 5 days, and after that they will dry out, shrivel off and fall off. Which hormone helps in the falling off of the plant parts, shedding of the plant parts naturally? It is abscisic acid. Otherwise,
जो fruit वाले जो plants रहते हैं, for example, pumpkin, उसका flower
so that's, as I said, certain type of flowers which are bigger with thick petals, they will have a longer lifespan. They always have a longer lifespan. So these type of flowers and the fruits that we understand, they have got a longer lifespan. So the release of abscisic acid is different time in different plants, different time. So remember the word senescence. What is the meaning of the word senescence? Aging of the plant parts. One more hormone that we talk about is, it is not a promoter. The fifth hormone that we are talking about is, it is neither a promoter, it's a neutral hormone. It's neither a promoter nor an inhibitor. That is senescence, meaning aging of the plant parts, the shedding of the plant parts. senescence. The fifth that we talk about is ethylene. Ethylene. Now, ethylene, one special feature is, this is the only specific hormone in the gaseous state. Ethylene is not an alcohol, it is a hormone which can diffuse to the nearby plant tissues also, and it is released in the gaseous state. Can be synthesized also artificially in the gaseous state. So now I'm saying, what is some exceptional features about ethylene? Number one, only hormone in the plant which is in the gaseous state. Always to remember, you get this question often. Hormone which is in the gaseous state, ethylene. What does it do? Where is it released? It is secreted and released in the seeds and the fruit and the flowers, etc. What is its function? Its function is maturation of the flower and the seed and ripening of the fruit. Ripening of the fruit is a major function of ethylene that we understand. So I'm saying the flower gets mature very fast or in a proper time only when the flower has adequate amount of ethylene in it. The plant can produce adequate amount of ethylene. Maturation of the seed. The seed can get matured properly to give rise to a fruit only when the plant has adequate amount of ethylene. Ripening of the fruit. The raw fruit has to get ripened within a couple of days. That also will be possible if ethylene is there adequate. But I also mentioned that this hormone can be synthesized artificially, and it is very much used nowadays in the process of artificial ripening of fruits. For example, now that I talk about mangoes, just now we have the mango season. So now these mangoes, the half-ripe mangoes, they are generally plucked and they are marketed so fast that within a day or two, because of the release of ethylene, I mean sack full of those mangoes, what will they introduce is, in the warehouses, wherever these fruits are stored, they are introducing the hormone. The hormone is in the gaseous state, so the hormone easily diffuses bringing about that yellowing of the fruit. In a just couple of days, the entire set of fruits become yellow, but internally, are they ripe? No, internally they are not ripe. A fruit which has ripened in the plant and which has been ripened by chemicals will differ in their taste and the nutrient level, everything. So that can easily be understood that the fruit is not mature or did not ripen in the plant, but it has been artificially ripened. The skin, the peel, the taste, the nutrient, everything matters. But only that the outer peel, the outer look has become yellow. This is nowadays been very much used to commercially ripen the fruits very early, prematurely, and for commercial demand. So which is this hormone we are talking about? Ethylene, which is always used for ripening of the fruits. That is a gaseous hormone, that is ethylene. So 5 hormones we have talked about: the auxin, the cytokinin, the gibberellins, the abscisic acid, and the ethylene. 5 specific hormones. Now, after these hormones, we have to also understand the type of plant movements. Now, does plant show movements? What type of movements does plant show? Growth and
flowers.
what flowers?
Sunflowers.
Bending of the plant parts. That is also another type of a movement that plants show. So what are the different type of plant movements? Movements of plant with response to?
Nastic.
That is not nastic. Here this is, first of all, we are talking about tropic movements. What are tropic movements? Once you are clear about this, anything more to ask here? Anything to clarify? Here 5 hormones, differences, similarities you may be asked. Some case study questions may be there, assertion may be there. So see that you understand specific, certain 1 or 2 things I have given you extra, so that you know, understand. Anything to ask, clarify? क्या है?
ये आपने जैसे बोला था ये प्लांट्स ये वाला हार्मोन प्लांट्स की एजिंग के लिए तो ये अगर somehow हमने स्टॉप कर दिया तो फिर प्लांट्स
the plant parts falling off the leaves and the shedding of the flower will take a long time. So that plant will not be productive anymore. No, this plant will not be able to give new flowers, new seed. देना बंद कर देगा. So this particular plant and shedding of the plant part is also a method for releasing the waste substances for a plant. On the surface of the leaf, waste substances get deposited. On the petals of the flower, waste substances get deposited. So the plant will also stop the method of shedding the waste substances, releasing the waste substances. So काफी सारे और processes will get disturbed because of this. So this hormone helps in the shedding of the plant parts.
लेकिन मैम उससे plant grow तो नहीं करेगा, एक bonsai type बन जाएगा.
हाँ, the growth patterns will be extremely affected, no? Growth pattern slow हो जाएगा. The plant will become dwarf हो जाएगा. The process of growth of the fruit flower बंद हो जाएगा slowly. Now next is we try understanding the concept of trophic movements. What is the major meaning of trophic movements? What are trophic movements? You had already come across a concept of trophic hormones. What was that? What was that? Trophic hormones. What was that? Who remembers? Nobody? Abhi exam likha na? This chapter was not there. Trophic hormones?
School में पढ़ा है.
School में भी सोते हो, इधर भी सोते हो. Trophic hormones? Nobody? Just last week only we finished this, no? Trophic hormone, the word is associated with which endocrine gland? 10th standard, you cannot go with the pace of your school. Pituitary gland. तो trophic hormone एक example बता सकते हो? Why the pituitary gland was known as the known as the master gland? Because it releases trophic hormone. देखो एक answer I have given you. I have given you that answer. Pituitary gland is known as the trophic hormone. Pituitary gland is known as the master gland because it releases variety of trophic hormones. And one example I gave you, read that properly. Read that properly. So that was the concept of trophic hormones. What are we talking about now? We are talking about trophic movements. Trophic movements in plants. That was trophic hormone. And now we are talking about trophic movements in plants. What are trophic movements? Trophic movements are a set of specific movements in the plant parts. When we are talking about the specific type of movements in the plant parts, which is related to the stimulus. Let me just try to put it very simple that if I talk about the process of trophic movements, now when we are talking about this, a basic concept of trophic movements, what is it? How it will define this concept? Trophic movements, movement of the plant parts with response to a stimulus. Try understanding 4 or 5 features of this concept. I talk about trophic movements. The plant is bending towards sunlight. The roots going towards the source of water. These are all trophic movements. What is the stimulus when I'm saying that the plant is bending towards the source of light? What is the stimulus there? Light. The roots are growing towards water. What is the stimulus there?
Gravity.
The roots are growing towards water, I said. What is the stimulus? Water. The roots are growing downwards. What is the stimulus? Gravity. So here, if you remember, we'll talk about that. So now, if you remember, is the concept of stimulus for us? We have studied stimulus with reference to nervous system. The concept of stimulus for us and the concept of stimulus for the plant is a little bit different. What is the difference? When we talk about, we had understood stimulus, for us sound is a stimulus. No? Sound is a stimulus. Somebody is calling us, we respond. Sound is a stimulus. Light is a stimulus. Touch is a stimulus. Heat, cold, stimulus. For plant, sound is a stimulus? No. For plant, sound is not a stimulus. Light is a stimulus? Yes. For plants, light is a stimulus. Water is a stimulus for a plant? Yes, not for us. For animals, water is not a stimulus. We don't respond to water. Number 4, chemicals. Are chemicals a stimulus for us? Are chemicals a stimulus for the plant? Yes. Chemicals a stimulus for both plants and animals. Touch a stimulus for both plants and animals. So now we try to understand what is the meaning of trophic movements. Movements of the plant parts. Movements of plant parts. Movements of the plant parts in response to a stimulus. Now, based on the stimulus, what are the different types of movements? The first one, phototropism. The first one is phototropism. The second one is hydrotropism. The third one is geotropism. The fourth one is thigmotropism. So when we are talking about the major type of trophic movements, 5 major type of trophic movements, let us try to understand. Diagram based questions from this part of the chapter, very common. You will get a diagram based, and for in your NCERT book there are typical diagrams for each of these, so see that you go through all those diagrams properly. Let us talk about the first one, phototropism. How do we understand phototropism? Let me just show you a very simple concept of phototropism. Phototropism, we very clearly understand. Say suppose we have got a potted plant. A potted plant, we have kept it in the window sill. What are we observing? What is the growth pattern? The plant is growing. Now that the plant is growing, the shoot is bending towards the source of the light. The shoot is bending towards the source of light. But now, along with the bend, is the growth there? Yes, the growth is happening. But I want to now change the direction of the light. So what am I doing is, I am bringing that pot inside the room where I put a strong artificial source of light just from the other direction where the bend was. I put this potted plant inside the room and I don't allow, I put it in such a position that the sunlight does not enter much there. But in that room, I have placed an artificial source of light, very strong, but almost on the other side. What am I observing in 2-3 days?
The plant again.
Bending this side. The plant will slowly. Now, since this is the artificial source of light, it will take a little bit longer. But slowly, the bend will be towards this side. So, what is the definition of phototropism? Response of plant parts to light.
उस साइड leaves भी ज़्यादा रहते हैं, इस साइड shade होने लगता है.
No, the extension, the bend will be more. I'll tell you why. So I said the first thing is this one. Phototropism, what is the stimulus? And the definition. Stimulus is light. Definition क्या लिखेंगे? Bending of the plant parts, bending of the shoot. We are majorly talking about shoot. Bending of the shoot towards light. So if I say bending of the shoot, then I would say that shoot show positive phototropism. Then what is the concept of positive and negative here? Shoot is responding to light and growing towards the source of light. So इसीलिए इसको positively phototropic बोला जाएगा. Identify the parts of the plant which are positively phototropic and negatively phototropic. Root positively phototropic है, negatively phototropic. Understanding very simple. These concepts are very simple. So shoot and root, plant parts, some plant parts are given in your question. Identify the parts which are positively phototropic. So if it is a plant part above the soil, it will be positively phototropic. Below the soil, negatively phototropic. So that's why I write shoot positively phototropic. Now, why the bend?
Banyan tree के जो roots रहते हैं, वैसे green roots रहते हैं, वो positive होंगे.
No, they never bend towards the source of light. They don't respond to light. They will not bend towards the source of light. They are still responding towards gravity. The tall prop roots, usko prop roots bolte hain, they all hang towards the soil. They all direct towards the soil. Now, see the process. How does oxygen bring about bending of the shoot? Now, there are two things we are talking about. One is oxygen and the other is light. Two things helping in the bending of the shoot. So we are saying phototropism meaning bending of the shoot towards the source of light. But how exactly it happens? If this is the shoot, the first thing for oxygen we had already learned, the shoot tip is the region where the oxygen concentration is maximum. Yes, the shoot tip is a part of the plant, the region of the plant where the oxygen concentration maximum. But now, when I talk about this particular shoot, as long as the source of light is exactly above it, it will generally not show bending because now it is becoming neutral. But the moment the source of light is little bit away from the tip of the shoot, then this particular region is directly exposed to light. This particular region is considered as the shady part of the shoot, meaning here the strength of the light is little bit less. So when you write your answer, it is always written that way, that the oxygen concentration or oxygen which is maximally released at the tip starts diffusing towards the shady part of the shoot. What is the meaning of shady part? Shady part means the part of the shoot which is not directly getting the intense heat. Oxygen now gets concentrated on the shady part of the shoot. Now since here the oxygen is more, how does oxygen bring about growth? Cell division ki cell elongation? Cell elongation. So now at this part, the cells will start elongating. Actually, oxygen acts on the cell wall. Oxygen acts on the cell wall and makes them stretchable long. Makes them stretchable long. Makes them stretchable long. So this side the cells are smaller, shorter, and this side the cells are all long. And because of the uneven lengths, the entire shoot starts bending. This is the mechanism in 3-4 points you will have to write down. The answer is there in the volume. So this is what you'll have to understand to write down. Why does bending of the shoot take place? What is the mechanism of phototropism? We go to the next one. Hydrotropism, geotropism, each one of these concepts we understand. Now, okay, this is geotropism that I show you. If this is a concept of geotropism, now you tell me from the figure itself, which part of the plant is positively geotropic? The root. The root is positively geotropic. So if I talk about geotropic, what is the stimulus? The stimulus is the gravitational force, the gravity. Which part is positively geotropic? Roots are positively geotropic and shoots are negatively geotropic. So just I'm talking about geotropic now. Okay. So roots are positively geotropic. So definitely when we talk about shoots are negatively geotropic. A best example of geotropism to understand is also the process of germination of the seeds. Some few examples you are supposed to know germination of the seeds. Now we talk about the next one. Hydrotropism. Now again when we talk about a potted plant or the soil, we put the water in the soil, we put the water in the pot. Is the shoot directly growing towards the source of the water? The shoot is never growing towards the source of the water. Is the root growing towards the source of the water? Yes, the root is growing towards the water. No? I talk about a potted plant, and in this potted plant, if I talk about a potted plant here, and this is my plant, and inside here the roots are growing. Where did I put the water? The water is all here, no? The water is all here. The soil has water. Is the shoot bending towards the source of the water? No. So I will say that the shoot is negatively hydrotropic. The shoot is taking the water but not directly stimulating its growth towards water. So the shoot is negatively hydrotropic and the root is positively hydrotropic. So I would say the root actually responds both to the water and the gravity together. It responds to the water and the gravity together actually. So talking about hydrotropism again, if I have to write shoot, I will have to write shoot is negatively hydrotropic. Increase. The root is positively hydrotropic. Shoot is negatively. So in your paper, sometimes you may get a question, explain. Roots are positively geotropic for 1 mark. Roots are positively geotropic as a part of a question. So you should know what to write. Roots are positively geotropic, meaning they grow towards the force of gravity. The process of growth is towards the gravity, responding to gravity. Thigmotropism. What is the concept of thigmotropism? What is the stimulus? Let us first write down. What is the stimulus here? Hydrotropism. We have to write water is the stimulus, gravity, and then light. What about thigmotropism? Touch. When we are talking about thigmotropism, touch is the stimulus. Now, how touch is the stimulus? This is majorly for plants which are climbers or creepers, which do not have a thick, strong stem. Now, if I talk about the money plant or the pea plant or the cucumber or the pumpkin, these type of plants which are climbers or creepers, as they keep on growing, they always look for a support. Now, if these plants are in the soil and there is no stick or a bamboo given there or grills there, then they will start creeping on the wall or creeping on the soil or twining around the stem of another nearby plant. They will naturally grow that way. So if it is a pumpkin or the gourd plants, what is being done in the entire process of growth? When the process of growth is happening, some thatch is made or some bamboo sticks are placed so that they get the support. So the moment these tendrils have come in contact with another stem or a stick or a support, the plant can flourish well because it is twining and spiraling around and continuing the process of growth. If the support is not there, the growth becomes a little bit slower for them. So in this type of a plant, what are we understanding? Again, which part of the plant is positively thigmotropic? The shoot is positively thigmotropic.
कुछ creepers और climbers में ये tendrils नहीं होते.
Some. The moment you talk about climbers, they will always have the tendrils. Creepers, some of them they may not have. They may have the modified stems. They have the modified stems only. So this concept, I talk about the thigmotropism. If I have to write down the root, for the root I'll have to write they are negatively thigmotropic. The last concept that we talk about is chemotropism. Chemotropism, what can be? The stimulus. The stimulus are the different type of chemicals. Now, how are we talking about the chemicals? The sugar, the different type of sugar that is present where? The sugar in the style. The sugar in the style. Now, this is one example. Now, let me see how much you all remember. This entire part, did you ever come across the structure of the flower? Structure of the flower you have come across, no? So this part of the flower, this part of the female part of the flower, this is known as the style. No, this is the style. This part is known as the style. And what is packed up in the style? A large amount of glucose, nutrients. And now that the pollen comes in contact with the stigma, this part is the stigma. Now that the pollen comes in contact with the stigma, ये है pollen tube. This entire long neck-like structure, that is the style. So here the style is packed up with nutrients. The pollen sits here, the pollen comes in contact here. We are going to come across all these concepts in the next chapter. This particular pollen starts its process of growth. इसको germination of the pollen बोलते हैं. So now this process of growth of the pollen will only happen towards the ovary. Q. Why not in any other direction? Because this pollen shows cell division responding to the chemicals which is all packed up here. They respond to the chemicals. The process of growth is because of the chemicals which are packed up here. A concept known as chemotropism. Response of plant parts to chemicals. Which chemicals majorly we are talking about now? The glucose, the sugar, which is present here in the style. This is style. This is the style. And then the pollen tube will release the male gametes and then the entire process of fertilization and all. Those things we'll study later. So how many types of tropic movements we have come across? 5 major types: phototropism, hydrotropism, geotropism, chemotropism, thigmotropism. For each of these, the concept is very simple. When you get a question, read the question, because they will not give you simple questions like this, the definition not to come. But you will get this concept in different form patterns of a question. Read the question and answer as according to the question asked. All these types of movements that we had come across, what is in general? Try answering this question that I ask you. In each of these movements, did growth happen? Did growth happen? Did the plant parts grow? Are we talking about the parts of the plant growing? Yes, roots are growing. Shoot is growing. Remember, the moment we talk about tropic movements, movements of the plant part towards the stimulus. The movements accompanied by growth. And now that the growth has happened, is the growth reversible? I take the potted plant from the windowsill inside my room. I put that artificial source of light. Did the growth retract back? Did the stem become shorter? Is the growth irreversible or reversible? Irreversible hai. Growth has happened, but growth kabhi chota nahi hone wala hai. Growth is irreversible. Let us talk about the last topic, that is nastic movement. What is nastic movement here? Nastic movement, when we are talking about a concept of nastic movement, here the concept of nastic movement here means we are talking about certain type of plant parts. Okay, we are talking about certain type of plant parts. Now, if these are the tropic movements, let us talk about certain type of movements of the plant parts which has got nothing to do with growth, but still plants of the parts of the plant. So now we are talking about the other concept, that is nastic movements. The last topic, try understanding. What is nastic movements? For nastic movement, there is no growth involved. But for tropic movement, just now I told you growth is there. For tropic movement, just now I told you growth is there. So now, when we are talking about nastic movement, and how would the concept of nastic movement be? Let us think of some examples like the pitcher plant. I talk about some examples like the pitcher plant. I talk about some examples like the mimosa, meaning the touch-me-not plant. The touch-me-not. What is the type of movement here? For the pitcher plant, what is happening? What type of movement in the pitcher plant? So if I talk about the pitcher plant is a modified leaf, right? The pitcher plant that we talk about, it is a modified leaf. Just get to see this leaf. How does it look like? The pitcher shaped.
जैसे ही उसके वो जो उसका रिम है उसपे टच होता है.
हाँ, it has got a modified. Let us show. Get an idea. So once you see, you get to remember and you'll be able to write. So now, when we are talking about with this image, see this. So when we are talking about the concept of the pitcher plant, this is a pitcher plant. We are trying to understand nastic movement. We are trying to understand nastic movement. Remember here, this is a modified leaf in the shape of a pitcher. It is an insectivorous plant. The entire plant is an insectivorous plant. Now, this entire leaf-like, this is also the modified leaf in the form of a lid-like structure. So whenever a fly or an insect or a small worm or a small ant would come in contact with these rims of the pitcher or this leaf-like structure of the pitcher, what will happen? The entire leaf-like structure shows wrinkling. They just crush down like this. Why do they crush down? Because there is a massive movement of the water molecule, cell to cell, cell to cell, and then these regions of the pitcher, they become little bit wrinkled.
अंदर साइड वो
movement of the water would happen, and as a result, continuously there is movement of the water. Movement of the water के वजह से there is no loss of water, कोई transpiration, nothing is happening. Only that cell to cell water movement हो रहा है, and these parts of the leaf would wrinkle and fall on the rim-like structure. It will fall. And now what's happening? The entire pitcher is closed. The small beetle, the small insect, the fly, etc., they get trapped. And hence the concept insectivorous. But after a particular period of time, when this part regains back the water, because the water was not lost, it regains back the water, and after some time again it will rise up. So exactly this way, it is a method by which it traps insects. But what is the stimulus here? Can you tell me? Is the movement due to a stimulus? Yes, there is no growth, but is there any movement? Should we write for nastic movement? Is there any movement? Yes, movement is very much due to a stimulus, but there is no growth like the tropic movement. Movement hai. This leaf-like structure is falling down. Stimulus kya tha? Touch of the insect or the beetle or the small lizard or the small worm or etc. हमने हाथ रखा तो भी होगा, but then when we are talking about the stimulus for us will be more harder. This is a softer tissue.
मैम उसके अंदर से hair-like projections है.
Hair-like projections with some sap is there, some transparent liquid is there inside. So the moment the insect falls in it, it gets digested there. Feeling cold? So now when we are talking about this, when we now, no, my most of the time touch mineral I'll show you. So this is one. What is common? The method here and the method in the next one. If I just talk about the other one, the touch me not. The touch me not. See here, when we are talking about this, here also the method is the same. Here also the method is the same. Here what is happening? This is another very good example for nastic or tropic movement. Nastic. तो nastic movement में क्या था? Movement हो रहा है because of the stimulus. But did we talk about growth in the previous example? नहीं, there is no growth. Growth कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. यहाँ पे भी growth कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. Whenever I touch here, what is happening? The cell to cell water movement is happening. The cell to cell water movement is happening. We touch here, the lashing of the tail of an animal, the wings of a bird, certain insects. The moment there is a touch from this particular region or from this particular region, wherever there's a movement of the water molecule, जहां से water molecule move हो रहा है, that part is becoming shrunken. So इस तरह से the parts are becoming shrunken. So ये जो leaflet open था, it's becoming closed. But again, the water is moving and moving and moving, going to the stem region, and again it is coming back. So it is just simple to understand circulation of the water is happening. Since it is circulation of water and no loss of water, the water is regained back again. And these leaflets which were closed, in a couple of minutes, they again open up. Once they regain back their water.
वो जो leaves है ना, वो ऐसे bunch of leaves मिलके एक बन है ना.
हाँ,
उसमें अगर last वाला को touch किया ना,
if you touch these leaves also the process will happen.
अगर समझो ऐसे है बहुत सारे leaves है, मैंने बस last वाला जो भी है उसको touch किया, तो सारे बंद हो गए.
सारे बंद हो जाएंगे. Because every leaf has got stiff amount of water, large amount of water.
मतलब इसका water उसमें transfer हो.
एक का दूसरे में जा रहा है, दूसरे का तीसरे में जा रहा है. That is the method. This is a defense system of our plant. Yes. Any type of a no pathogen predation.
ऐसा उसमें develop होगा. पहले पूरी होगा.
This is the adaptation that the plant is made of, because these type of plants usually present on the land. This type of plants are always present on the land. So this is the adaptation that those plants have. They don't give rise to any fruit plant, and they always have this type of an adaptation. Every plant doesn't have. The mango doesn't have. Why the mango doesn't have? Because the mango has no teeth. The plant will not easily be affected by any type of predation. But this type of plants are small plants, even stem. So the plant has developed a mechanism for protection. The next class will do just few questions from this part, and then we'll carry on with the next chapter.
समझ गया बोल रहा था मुझे दोस्ती दिखाने की जरूरत
मैं भी आऊँ आज साइकिल का बाद में लेके जाएंगे ना पक्का मैं छोड़ दूँगा
छोड़िए, कोरेशन मजा है कि नहीं?